Hey, Brittany, do you go by Garcia or do you go by O'Donnell?
Garcia.
Garcia.
Yeah.
Really?
Rick, did you get find the package then? No, I looked on the email, but I didn't see.
No, you have to go to the village website. At least that's where I found it. I am going to call the Plan Commission of August 2nd to order. Roll call, please.
President Jay Langfeld,
Here.
trustee Judy Kelby, Peter,
Here.
Commissioner Todd Clyde,
Here.
Commissioner Brittany Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Seth Johnson,
Here.
trustee Bill Brochus.
Here. All right, can we stand for a pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then I have Commissioner Cameron Dorfman just joined us on Zoom.
Say that again?
Cameron just joined us on Zoom.
Oh, okay. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Plan Commission on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the Plan Commission encourages input from residents. It may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Do we have anybody?
We did not have anyone sign up for public comment.
All righty. We'll go to general business. Number 1, approval of the minutes from July 6, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the park and conservation signage policy. Just what this is, just so everybody knows, that there was a asked by the board, the village board, to get consistency in signage. It went to the Plan Commission for signs that are non-related to parks and Park and Rec came up with the policy. You saw in there, what we have to do is add to that for signage that is outside of the Parks and Rec. Just to fill everybody in, if you look, we spend quite a bit of money on Highway 14 and Church Street for those big green signs that say CP on top, and then it has the name of EMS or middle school or library with a big arrow. Unless people feel strongly, I would ask that we just put the specs of those signs into this policy, then we got consistency there. That would be my one idea. The second idea would be to leave the signage for facilities as part of the architectural design of the building. I don't know why we would do the sign before we do the building. Those would be my 2 recommendations. Anybody else with any ideas?
Just quickly, I want to check
Yep.
and make sure that Cameron is hearing us. Can you hear us? Cameron, just give me a thumbs up. We cannot hear you. Nope, we can't. You got headphones on? Okay, do they have mic? Oh, does your headphone have mic? Oh, it does? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on then.
Can you dial in or no?
Are you able to dial in by phone? Okay. Sounds good. We can continue on and wait for him.
Yeah, I guess, does anybody else, does that meet? Because I know, Bill, you were one of them that wanted consistency in the policy when this first came up.
Right, and I think the biggest, so this outside is the other part, right? Or is this for the entire?
No, here's what, if you remember, it came up with the push to get consistency with park signs,
Right.
right? And the labeling of trails and everything, they want consistency. I
Right.
thought it was you and Michael that said, well, it should be expanded to include the whole city, the whole village. You know, so we have consistency throughout. If we're gonna have a sign policy, it should cover more than just park and rec.
Sure.
Sure, so,
I think that was mostly Michael.
oh,
I don't remember being
I think it was Sarah
opposed to anything,
Francois.
but
I think it was Sarah Francois when she was still on.
well, that was on park, so, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
talking about, I thought, well, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But I think your point is valid. I mean, the signs that we have, they've been up there now for 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah,
You know,
and some just a couple years.
right, yeah, I think your idea is just add what we currently have to our policies instead of redesigning it.
Yep. Is everybody comfortable with that? I just don't see the reason in spending, they meet DOT, well, you know, requirements, and I have not heard anybody negatively comment about our signage. And what about for facilities? See, to me, that should always be part of the architectural design. I don't,
I mean, but you want to have a common theme.
do you? I mean, why should the city hall have the same signage as the police department?
Well, I'm not saying the same signage, but require the village logo to be placed in the center of the sign and work around that. Or something along that lines.
So you would be opposed if we had a brick building and on the front of the brick building, it was etched in the concrete slab, Village Hall. You would also want another sign?
I would think from a branding standpoint, you'd want the village logo. I mean, you do it with your bank, you do it with their, you know.
But see that, I agree with you. If you're franchising something, you have to, but the problem with the logo is we change it every 2-3 years.
No, we just stop changing it.
Well, I know, but and do you think, I guess, you know, I look at, you know, and again, I'm just gonna, from my experience, the Madison Police Department has 6 different districts. Everyone has a different type of signage because it was part of the architect and we brought in the neighbors and everything like that to do it. Everybody knows their police departments. We don't need to have a, go ahead.
So one of the biggest discussions we had at the board meeting was, well, actually logos. That was the big discussion we were having, and if you guys remember back maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Parks came up with their own logo. And the village had a different logo, and then a lot of people liked it. So the village incorporated most of what Parks did for their logo, but not everybody did, and that was, you know, so that's kind of goes back to what you guys are talking about is do we want to have the logos consistent throughout the village, or is it cool that Parks has their own, police has their own, fire has their own, village has their own? You know, that was the discussion that I do remember having on logos and what we want to do with that. So, and I'm good with Parks having their own logo and the village having a separate logo to distinguish between Parks and the village, but I can go either way.
All right, Judy?
No, I was just gonna say that too, because I was gonna say, like, even the chamber has their own kind of, the police have their own logo, everybody has their own logo, so I don't think we should put the logo there, because I feel like there's just, right, at the moment, there's a lot of different logos, and it is a moving target, because they do get changed.
And my feeling is if people want the logo when we build the building, that's fine, but to say you have to have that before you even have the design of the building, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense. The signage is very important as part of the architectural design of it. And if you look, you know, I'm not gonna, the parks have done that and I'm gonna go with it because they've done a lot of work and I'm not real strong on this. But I look in Madison, every neighborhood association has their own design of their own sign to talk about their neighborhood. The parks in the city of Madison are not all labeled identical. You know, I just don't, it's not a strong thing that everything has to be the same to me. I think it should meet on what you're what the park is, what the neighborhood is. Because every neighborhood, there's something that makes it a little unique. And a lot of them wanted to put that into their sign.
And I don't have a problem with that, but I would think that somewhere on it, it should have that they're part of Cross Plains, the village.
Bill?
So looking at the document we have in front of us and up on the screen. Sorry, Cameron. Looking at the document we have in front of us and on the screen, the color scheme, where did that come from? For the vertical sign, for the horizontal sign, for all that? Where did,
I think it was the park department.
Yeah.
Or the park committee, they did it, because remember when Mike came to the village board with this whole, he had full package to get it approved at time.
yeah.
So I think it was their committee.
Yeah, it
And
is.
they spent almost a year on it.
Yeah, no, like I say,
Well, I just don't.
No, I'm just telling you. They
Yeah,
spent- I think they spent about a good year on it.
right, if we're looking to actually come up with what Todd is saying, then what I would move to is we get a subgroup to work on that. My feeling is, we've got the signs on the street already, those we stay. Facilities, we're talking about police and village hall and facilities. To me, it's not worth going in this, because the next board will say, why'd they do that? I don't like that. It should be part of the design of the building. And then let whoever's on the board at the time decide what the signage should look like for that particular building.
But I thought part of this was also not that we're going to go out and replace all the signs. It would just be replacing them as needed with the design standard that we're trying to go. with.
Well, that has been yet to be seen. I think that was one of the suggestions, is to do that, but I think there are some that I know would want to do all the signs. Now, we can't afford to do that, but I think there was another one that you do so many each year over a certain amount of time. But I mean,
I don't want to throw away perfectly good signs. It goes against all our sustainability committees. So I mean, it's just, the
No, I agree.
idea is, just, I think,
But I
we should
think-
have something going forward.
but I think that's a different topic. Right now, what we have to do is the task on hand is to come with a village policy on signage. Parks and Rec have done their job, and you can see what they have decided. So now what we have to decide to make it whole is, what does this committee recommend to be the policy of signs outside of Parks and Rec, Parks and Conservation Land? So I'm hearing a couple. Seth, where are you coming from on this?
For one, this is brought to us as guidelines, so it's suggestions. It's not, doesn't have to be, if we pass this, that they have to follow us in the future. I kind of like the idea of having a target for some consistency. Like, I view this as like the village hall signs, that would be something out like at the entrance, like on the driveway, not what's on the side of the building. That's gonna be more architectural. And so that's kind of how I picture it. Maybe that's not accurate, but these are more wayfinding type signs, not the architectural signs.
Okay,
And that, do we need to have both? I kind of like having consistency, but I agree with you. There's no need to go out there and replace them now, but I'm just picturing, if an outsider is coming, driving down the street, oh, I'm sorry. If an outsider is coming, looking for Village Hall, and they see some of these other signs, oh, I'll look for that kind of sign, make sure I have the right address, et cetera. I can see some value.
all right.
That's how I'm doing this, again, is more from a wayfinding perspective, not like architectural things on the side of the building.
All right, Brittany, what are your feelings?
I agree with a lot of what Seth said. I think I understand the desire for consistency. I don't think it's something that, as you mentioned, Jay, you'd want to spend money changing signs at this point, but I think giving, I guess, guidance toward, possibly using that logo throughout the village could help folks who are coming into town and, trying to find their way.
Cameron? Can you?
You should be able
Yeah,
to.
can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
We can hear you.
Oh, good, great. Jay, I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I think, it makes a lot of sense maybe for parks and conservancies, that kind of thing. If they want to have the same signs, I get it. I don't know if we need to fall in line and do, change Village Hall sign or anything like that, at this moment. If a storm were to come through and take it down tomorrow, sure, maybe we could consider following these guidelines, but I don't feel particularly strongly about it.
All right, Judy, why don't you?
Sorry. I agree. I like it. I think kudos goes to the Parks and Recs department that have been working on this for a year. I feel bad for them. I like it. I bless it. I just won't want to go out and spending money on replacing signs as needed. If a sign falls down, the next time we have to replace it, or going forward, if there's a new something in town and they want to do it, then going forward, we'll set a precedence going forward. But I like your policy also.
Oh, okay, I have to clarify, we're not discussing Parks and Rec. That's been,
the signs. No, I
Okay.
to them for doing this.
oh, yeah. So I guess I'm trying to get a feel on what you're feeling for facility. Let's just do let's do the road signs first. Does everybody agree the ones we have are good?
Yes.
Yes.
So can we add at least that to the policy?
Yes.
Okay, so now
Just to
all we have
clarify,
left is.
the road signs are the green ones, right? That
Yeah,
say,
the ones that have
Okay.
CP on the top, and it looks like hills, and then they have.
Yeah, the one similar to. like,
Yeah, we'll go out, you must have a spec sheet, because we had to specially order those, I'm guessing. So we'll get a spec sheet, and if someone can take a photograph of it, one of ours, so we can put it into the policy. So now we're at the facilities one, so I'm hearing that it seems like the majority would like to have a sign design. So I think the best thing would be to set up a subcommittee and come up with what you think this sign is going to look like. For those who are in favor of doing that, because that is going to be the next debate on the sign. And you can, I guess, pick whatever colors you want. You can look at the parks one and try to emulate that, however you want. Like I say, now we're talking about right now, it'd be 2 buildings, facility and police and city hall. So do I have some volunteers that would want to do that? Because I don't want to do it. I'm terrible when it comes to design, and you guys all know my feeling that I just don't get it, but it should wait till you design the building, and then if you want to have that stuff, that's fine. But if they don't, they don't. So go ahead.
Is there an issue with having them look similar to what's proposed already?
Yeah, I
No.
guess I was thinking that you would be taking sort of what Parks and Rec did already. And
Well,
using
if you
that.
wanna, if that's what your proposal,
I view
you
this-
can do whatever you want. I mean, right now the slate is totally open.
I view it as guidelines again, so it's like.
Right.
Well,
It's a suggestion that like, okay, moving forward, we're
Okay.
going to get this for consistency, and so if that is the same as.
Okay.
Parks and.
We got to clarify definitions. They're not guidelines. It's a policy. Now, can you break a policy? Absolutely. It's not like it's an ordinance or a state statute. So it's a policy. So when we're saying this is how we think it should be done, so people are going to look at that, and that's going to be what they use to do that. So it's a little bit more than just guidelines saying, we'd like you to think about this. This is what we'd like to have when it comes time to redo the signs for facility buildings. So we have to have something. Now, if you want to take the exact color and everything and where it says parks, put city hall or police department, I think the police department will probably have, public safety would probably have a little, because traditionally they use their patch as the logo on their sign. It would be a little different, but like I say, we can do whatever we want, but I think someone's got to come up with a proposal. So do I have anybody who would like to do that?
I can look at it.
Okay, and anybody want to work with Bill on that? Well, come on, the people who are really for it, someone's got it. It's, and the reason I'm saying that is not as a punishment, it's just that I don't want Bill and me and Judy to do something, and then you guys say, well, that's not what we were thinking of, we want it like this. The people who want it that way need to get involved so we go in the right direction.
I will volunteer to work.
All right. Good. Why don't you just, two can work on it then, bring it back? So Bill, I guess what we can do is if you would be willing to at least get a photo and the specs for the wayside signs, we can at least have that to the Parks and Recreation. And then we'll just have the facility sign part that'll be needed to be added.
So just one clarification here. I mean, since we're talking about multiple signs, several signs, and we don't yet have a set policy for a signage, village-wide signage, do we, I don't know if we want to incorporate wayfinding signs into a park and conservation. sign.
Okay, I think
That
we're
makes sense.
missing my head. Let me just tell you what I picture. Village of Cross Plain sign policy. Heading number 1, Parks and Recreation. Number 2, wayside signs. Number 3, facility.
Okay, but we don't have the facility ones yet.
No, we don't have a, so that's what they're gonna work on.
Yeah, and we don't-
So I don't care what, I probably would do the wayside signs first to get people mentally set that these are for that. I would do that, then Parks and Recreation. And then, and you can, obviously, you're gonna thin out, you don't need the quotes and,
Yeah, so some more questions since we're talking about signage
yep,
policy here. So on the green signs, it's got the CP emblem.
yep. No, it doesn't, it just, oh yeah, it has
It's got a
CP on it.
emblem, yeah.
Yep,
And then, but since then, the village at some time adopted this village of Cross Plains with the hills and the creek and the trail. So do we want to keep it as this CP and green
yeah,
at that
Yeah.
point then? Okay,
I say that, because that's not changing, CP's never changing. We're already
right, I
saying
agree
CP,
with,
But that logo's gonna change.
yeah.
I mean, that
okay,
logo's
I just
gonna
want
No.
to clarify that.
And those things are really expensive, and
Right.
when you go, we've got, I think the village is well labeled on finding things, so
Yeah.
I see no reason in changing that. Is everybody in agree?
No, I don't want to change.
So then, just a quick, and this is a sign that we haven't talked about yet, but the ones that I believe will be changed out more regularly than any of the other signs that we have. And those are the green come enjoy banners.
Oh,
They get wind knocked, they get knocked by traffic. We have to replace them probably more often than any other signs in the village.
Remind me which.
the ones that say, join us for
Oh, yeah, the
hiking,
ones
join
that
us
are
for
hung on the
snowmobile,
streetlight.
joining
The banners,
the banners that are on the light poles.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
so we're keeping those the same.
I see no reason to change that
Because that was
unless
all
someone's
part of
really
that.
motivated.
Because we have, when the downtown, I believe the downtown revitalization plan was kind of the start of all of
Right,
that
it
street
was,
sweeping
it
stuff.
was.
And so, by adopting the wayfinding signs, are we saying we're gonna re-adopt everything else within that revitalization plan so that there's a consistency for our main street?
Yes,
That's perfect.
that's perfect.
I'll need to bring this one up. But I do have people that want signs in town that tell us what businesses we have. I know that, yes, we talked about it before.
Yeah, we
But
did
that's not
talk.
tonight, is it?
No, we can't talk about that tonight. But that's something we could talk with chambers and stuff on, because that's a whole different animal because it's constantly changing and
The only thing, as far as your work is concerned, that might provide some guidance as well, is distinguishing between a wall sign and a monument sign. As you can see, the monument sign there, like the national or the state park, that's oriented to where you would be driving into a facility or seeing it from the road. Whereas a wall sign, obviously it goes on the wall. And if you wanted to separate those out in terms of providing guidance, those would be two key components of most new sign that are built on buildings.
right. I think we're gonna complicate things. I think
Okay.
what I'm hoping they do is come up with a design and then it can be modified if it's gonna be a monument or
Okay.
a wall one. But I appreciate that because all our parks are monuments.
Yeah, and if you want to promote the future continuation of using monument and wall signs, maybe that's a portion of the policy or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know.
That's where it gets back to your point. I agree with you saying it's, I view, they're gonna say we build a new village hall. It's, yes, there may be some very nice looking thing etched in stone that's an architectural treatment on the building. That's different than a sign you might have at the entrance, so people know where to pull in for parking. So you might have a monument sign that looks like something in the guidance, and then what's on the building is gonna be part of the architecture.
That's fine. Put it in your plan.
And so we don't, I agree that we wouldn't come up with a design thing. This has to go, if it's on the wall, this is what it should look like. That to me is more the architecture. I view these kind of signs as,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Find that.
Yeah.
Just like the 2 wall signs we have coming into town up 14. I don't want to touch those.
Right, right.
Oh, my God.
No, no. I think we all want to get reelected, so the money we spent on those, we are not changing out. I'll veto that. All right, anything else, Bill, you need?
Well, I just want to comment, in creating the sign, we do have a current sign policy or sign ordinance. Which I think municipal buildings may be exempt from, but check with me and I'll make sure that whatever is in the policy jives with the ordinance.
All right,
And I got Photoshop, so we can do visuals if you want to do it.
so everybody feels good about where we're at? All right. I think we don't have to take any action then. All right. Discussion and possible action regarding Glacier Edge Square. And you should have had a diagram. Basically, what it's looking at is that outlot. We have a business that's interested in coming in. And they've asked, one of the conditions is that we open up that area there for parking.
You need a motion on that?
Yeah, we should,
You want-
because this is gonna go right back to board, right?
Well, it's going, a check with Park and Rec and then back to. board.
Well, yeah, but we have to get it, because we're on a timeline, we're on a 60-day timeline. So,
I would make a motion.
okay,
To accept this, I want to say blue, what do I want to say?
the design for
The
the parking lot
design,
design.
Parking lot design for Glacier Edge Square.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second discussion, just so people know there's a offer on the building, and one of the conditions is that something happens to increase the parking in that area for that to happen, and that, because that is owned by the village, it's up to the village to make that fulfill that contingency.
Bill, my speaker was off. Do you want me to repeat it?
I caught it, but if you want to for.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept the plan for the Glacier Edge Square Park Addition parking and improvements.
Right, that was the motion and it was second. We're on that discussion.
Sorry.
All right, any other discussion here? Okay, I have Bill and then Seth.
You want me to explain it?
Oh, go ahead if you want.
Okay, so can everyone hear me? Cameron, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is Glacier's Edge Square Park here. Again, we have an interested buyer in this building here. And what they have asked is for more parking spaces. For which obviously, if you look at the map, you can't come up with any more parking space unless you utilize some of the green space that is currently there, which is underutilized currently. With that being said, we came up with a design layout for the parking to maximize parking spaces, to maximize the traffic pattern in here. And then also there was a 2017 plan that was recommended for redesign or redevelopment of this area. And so this doesn't exactly match it, but it reflects it, especially with pathways for pedestrians to get, or safe passage for pedestrians to get to the park, which currently does not exist now. And then we do have in here some landscaping, which is subject to change. This is a very rough draft. And then switching out that pea gravel for natural habitat type wetland and rain garden plants. What you see highlighted in the red are impacted parking within the commercial kind of commercial common area owned by that condo association. And then obviously what is here highlighted in the dark blue would be the additional parking within the park area. These green spaces are just like plaza spaces, spaces for picnic tables, gathering. Just a dedicated area kind of at the meeting of all the sidewalks here. But all the specifics we don't necessarily have yet. Again, at this moment, we're looking for approval of the general layout.
All right, build and set.
So who owns, do we own the entire park in that shopping center?
Yeah,
It's, yes,
we own everything that's in this little square here.
So we could, I mean, just hypothetically, we do have the option of giving more parking if we want to get rid of that park completely.
well,
Just,
it's,
you know, hypothetically speaking.
well, no, there'd be some problems because that does collect some runoff.
Yeah,
Oh,
so just
So
up down.
what's designed here is the runoff that we're adding would be collected in the rain garden.
Okay, so we.
If you remember, there's that big drain there and
Yeah,
that shows that sidewalk, that's actually a 56-inch.
yeah, okay. So are we looking at redesigning? I mean, I know this is kind of a little bit off topic, but are we talking about redesigning that park then too, to accommodate the additional parking to the north?
Yeah, if you look, yeah, we're just, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yep,
that, that's all.
no, yep.
Okay,
So,
Are there any issues with ordinances or anything that we have to clear up if we're gonna convert parkland? And
we have to what?
we're taking parkland and taking it away to put it, whether it's still village owned property or is this be
So this
given
wouldn't,
to the private landowner, or how is this?
yeah, so this will still remain in village's control. So essentially this would become common public parking, which could be utilized for both the park and the community there.
Yeah.
No different than any other parks.
Okay,
Yeah,
if the
so we're
village
not-
wanted to use that for some event, and
Yes,
take over those parking spaces, we could do that even if.
well, let's put it this way. Those are
Retail
public, those are gonna be public parking. We are not giving up ownership of the land. We are just repurposing the land. Any other questions on that? I think.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I had a couple if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Was there any like specifications on how many parking spots we had to add?
There was not currently at this time.
Because like this doesn't even look like it's adding all that much, right? Because I mean, on the northern part there, we're losing what, 4 spaces? Because I'm assuming you're going to want to drive through there. Is that true?
Correct, yeah, so this concept shows us, I believe, gaining a net of like, I want to say 5 parking spaces. But, you know, partially making use of this area was important. Being able to use some of the parking for outdoor sales was important.
Okay.
Did you say we're only netting 5?
Yeah, so let's see here, yeah, I believe, well, I believe we're netting 9. is the
Yeah,
last
9,
count I
that's-
had. Because there's 18 that you lose on this side here, on the north side, and then on the east side. And then I believe you gain like 26 or 27, 28 in there.
I thought it was a +9.
Correct.
So I mean, I guess to me, and we're probably not at this level in the conversation, but this seems like really expensive to add just 9 parking spots. I would just want to make sure that the business is okay at a minimum with a net gain of 9.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Have you've bounced this off of them, right?
Yes, we've bounced the idea off of them. Haven't heard back yet, but
Oh,
that's
okay.
we're currently in negotiating it. I can tell, so a part of that is part of the negotiation, and so, I think as long as the plan commission and the village board agree with this type of layout in the park committee, we can adjust this to gain more or go without more parking, but I think what this does is it opens up the area for more available parking, even though it seems like it's not a huge number. There's not a lot of design that you can do with just this area. No matter how you can reconfigure it, because you'd have to have traffic to drive through it without impacting other property owners. So that's another important part. All this area north and east is owned by the association, the commercial part of the association. However, there's a line that comes through here, and everything here and south is owned by the Piggly Wiggly. And everything here and west is owned by this building. And so in order to not impact any of the parking down here, it made sense to add the parking along the park area. So that you're only dealing with the one owner on the north and the east side. So there's some complexity that goes into this. It's a layer of complexity. The stormwater and wastewater, or stormwater here is another level of complexity. And then permissions and negotiations with one party over another party is another level of complexity there too.
I have an additional question, and I'm sorry if this is naive, but do we have to like label that parking area as different because it will be public parking?
So all of this area is common parking. It's not any, specific parking in here. I believe there's an easement also that allows for the public to park in here. We'll double check that, but to answer your question, if it's a public access easement for parking, then no, we don't have to label.
Okay.
If it is not, and it becomes an issue, then we may have to consider it.
Okay. And then one more, and this is, I know I was just talking about cost, so I don't think this is likely to go forward, but just something we should consider. If we are adding parking that we own, like, is there anything else we want to do with it, like public charging or something like that? I understand that would be really expensive, but I just want to make sure that we're thinking about everything.
Yep.
If
So
we're gaining parking spots.
Yeah, so that's part of this discussion is, so I believe there's an electric charging station here.
Yeah, there is along
Um,
the side there.
and then there's been talk about a bike repair facility, future electric bike charging, but I think some of those things can be covered outside of this specific project. I think we can leave space to consider that in the future. I know in talking with Piggly Wiggly, this station was put in by MG&E and not the pig themselves. So those are all things to consider, and I know that there are grants out there for these type of things.
Any other questions? Are you still out there?
Me?
I think,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Oh, sorry. No, I thought you were asking everyone. No, I don't have any further questions. I'm just really concerned that this seems like a lot of work for a net 9 parking spaces, and I want to really make sure that the businesses, they definitely need that before we move forward.
Oh, yeah, we would not move over and move forward and having a significant investment if we weren't able to tie them to coming into the community.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is a contingency on their side, so we're just trying to help meet it. All right, any otherwise, let's do a roll call vote.
Trustee Grocius,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorkland,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Duquette,
Yes.
Trustee Kettlebeater.
Yes.
President Langill.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Number 4, discussion and possible action regarding chapter 83 land division and subdivision. This is basically cleaning up this chapter.
How did you want me to do this?
Well, I'd like,
You-
does everybody okay? A lot of the changes are basically changing Bill's role from administrator / clerk to administrator. So can we all agree that that should be done without everyone? And I guess, Bill, I would ask that you do the main ones. The 2 that I asked to be changed was the one that we require 100% when state says you can only ask for 90. So it's, to me, I just find it totally inefficient to have people come here and ask for something that state law is basically requiring. The other is the dates, and that's because both this group and the board have approved the last 2 subdivisions with the later dates for working, moving land and working in the right of way. So those are the 2 that are in there that I asked to put in. Bill, are there other ones you want to mention in there that you think are important for this? Unless other people can do. Judy.
I just have a question about B1, about the irrevocable letter of credit.
Yeah.
What are we doing with that one? We're not taking that out, are we? I mean,
No,
because
we're not.
we'll always make sure they have a letter of credit,
Yes.
any development.
So let me just,
Okay.
can I
go-
just go through it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it
Yep,
makes
go
it
ahead.
easier.
That was my big question, but
So the first one is regards to language on the irrevocable letter of credit. This is something that we require for security. So the letter of credit is one form of acceptable tool for security we've accepted and currently have what are performance and payment bonds. That's not listed in here because we accepted, we should probably list that in here. We've done other types too, which we can consider, but the irrevocable letter of credit and the surety bonds are the strongest tools for the village in regards to performance. So that's what this one is about.
So, okay, let's not move on. So
we're
you're not
leaving-
saying to change this, you want to add security bonds?
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
want to add, in addition to the irrevocable letter of credit, that the surety bond, performance bond and payment bond, which are a type of surety bond, are acceptable for.
And then what about the promissory note agreement that you have written there?
Yeah, so currently we have a promissory note agreement with Scenic Valley and the Bank for Scenic Valley. And there's an addendum on there, so that's an awkward way of doing it.
Right,
So I don't know if we necessarily want.
because if we had to, just hypothetically, if we had to draw from it, we would go to the bank and the bank would have to give us the
The
money.
bank would have to give us the money. Yeah.
Right,
That's how the promise.
if we did the promissory note one, but otherwise, yeah, okay,
Then
That'd be my
the
last
security
change.
bond, we would have to execute on that,
right.
you know, which is a whole different process. We've never had to do it, but
Well, we
Okay,
should have probably.
Whatever you guys, I mean, this is way outside of
Okay,
my
okay.
understanding, so whatever you 2 guys agree on, I'm okay
Okay.
with it.
Okay,
are you okay with just the irrevocable and
the security
the
bond,
security bond?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay, everybody else have a comfort level with that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay,
We want our own.
yeah, like I say, we all pick and choose which to change here, all right.
So all of these would go as a recommendation to the village board.
Right, understand,
Right,
right.
to approve the final ordinance. The second one is in regards to parkland dedication fees in lieu of dedication. This was an ordinance that was adopted in 2018. The language was not updated. So What the ordinance did was remove all this language and then insert new language, and that's reflected in this current copy.
All right, any questions, concerns on this? All right,
This section here just adds flood mitigation.
hang on, we're going, let's just name pages so we're all on the same page here.
Okay, so we are on page 7.
Oh, I thought we, okay,
All of the red on page, well, it'll be PDF page 24, but I don't think that's marked in your document.
Okay.
no,
Number
what
C.
page of the document?
Page 7, number C.
That says flood mitigation.
C
Yeah.
and 7.
Yep, okay,
So that's just adding a reservation of open spaces as part of the dedication.
all right. Any concerns on that? All right,
And then on page 10 of the document, the second paragraph down, that is the change in infiltration rate from 100% to 90%. This one is to be in line with the state statute and has consistently been a waiver from the village board. Any questions on that one? Next one here at the bottom of page 10 is in regards to park facilities. So we now have a park improvement or playground improvement fee as part of that Parks and Open Space Plan. This was again repealed by ordinance and recreated. And this language here corrects that. At the top of page 11, just adding the official map as part of a guiding document for plat review. We currently do not have an official map, but that's something that this committee will be working on shortly. Questions on adding official map? Some changes here, administrator, clerk, treasurer.
yeah, we can bypass all of those.
Right.
Again, official map. Village clerk and administrator changes. Official map change. Adding the official map language into the extraterritorial jurisdiction section as our primary tool to regulate what happens within that 1.5 miles outside of the village boundary. Changing administrator to clerk and talking about official map again on page 22. Okay, so on page 24, about halfway down, talking about drainage components. So for the creek crossing at St. Francis plat review, and when it went to the to CARPC, the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission for review, as part of their requirements to approving the urban service area amendment to eventually annex that property, they require that the developer add or reference the 500-year flood event on that plat map. That is something that is new. It's never been required before. And so this language would reflect that. You can see the notes here that, from our planners, that they would recommend that, but deferring to the engineer on that.
So are you changing the 100-year to the 500-year?
No, you should still be required to have the 100-year on there, but you will also add the 500-year.
Okay,
So it's like saying you can have 4 or you can have 8, but you can have to have 8. I mean, I don't understand why you need both 100 and 500.
So right now, currently, so everything is regulated off the 100-year.
Oh.
Insurance is regulated off 100-year, building is regulated off 100-year, not the 500-year. What they wanted to do is because there's been so much more flooding now, is give a warning to people that potentially they are also in the 500-year event. So that if they're forewarned,
So is this changing zoning then?
this is floodplain zoning, not necessarily the zoning regulation.
Right,
In planning, this is just changing the notice that you're in a general flood zone.
so is this gonna put hardship on the developers and the owners of the property?
Depending on your definition of hardship, they will have to pay for the surveyor to map the 500, engineering to map the 500, as they would the 100. So as a component of their flood study, they would have to make mention of that. It could potentially impact them in that if someone purchasing a home and looking at the plat and seeing a flood zone may scare them away. But again, there's no regulatory restrictions on the 500-year flood. All of that is done at the 100-year flood.
Judy?
Right, so do you think that's gonna make effect on like, will they need flood insurance then?
No,
Okay,
Is not, is,
because this doesn't
What
get
it would-
reported, where, who gets it reported? Where does it get reported?
well, I think what it is
Just
when
the
you buy a
person.
lot now, you'll see where the 500 flood line is, and you'll know how much of your lot could be in there.
Okay,
There's no regulation. This is giving, I think, a heads up, and I think what they're saying is, hey, maybe in the future, 500 will be the key one, but nothing we do now. To me, it's just a information thing. Hey, be aware that this is in the 500,
okay,
year flood zone.
okay.
so
It's probably not a bad idea. I don't know how much it's gonna add. If you're doing a water study, you would think you would have that anyways, but I don't know.
And I can show you, so in specific areas, the 500-year flood is not significant. Because the elevations and the slope of the creek is so steep that they're really one line. In some areas they may, if it's very shallow, going up in elevation. I can show you guys here if you would like. Give me a minute here.
It was me, I'd say, well, we just had a 500-year flood. I got 497 more years to go.
Yeah, well, you can. I think this is an agency that's trying to go ahead. I'm not. But if you don't do it, they're not gonna probably approve your plat.
So for example, here is the 500-year flood event. This line here. This one here is the 100-year flood event.
Okay.
Good?
Okay, yep,
All
sorry.
right. Let's move on. So you're gonna add that there, right? To that?
Yes, I'll add that language. And then if the engineer and jury object to that, then we can consider that at the village board level. Changing the clerk to administrator. On page 34, I do ask a question, whether or not we need to expand this language to include culverts, storm culverts and ditches, just being very safe there. Most storm sewer systems do include those as part of the system as a whole. Making mention of this is just making mention of the obvious, for
Right.
those that may not know.
I think it's a good idea, because we're
I
using
agree.
those more and more.
Yeah.
Anybody have an objection to that? All right.
So this section here, 83.81 talks about visibility at intersections. This is a consistency issue between the two codes, the subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance. As you can see here, our subdivision ordinance it requires no obstruction between 2.5 feet and 10 feet, whereas our zoning code height ceiling is 8 feet. And so making that consistent. And then in regards to the vision triangle, which is the corner of intersections, the subdivision requires a 25 feet setback from the right of way, whereas the zoning code requires a 30-foot setback.
I think we should go with the zoning code. I think we do the 8 feet and the 30 feet.
So yeah, generally that would be the wiser way to go, as the zoning code has more of a restriction in regards to changing that ordinance.
And we applied the zoning code this last political season on signs, so I don't, that's what we used. So
Any
I,
questions on that or objections?
No, that makes sense.
Changing central business district, which we don't have as a zoning. We have the Main Street mixed use. And then in regards to pedestrian ways, identifying, requiring for 10 feet width instead of possibly requiring or may require, just change in language.
okay, what are you gonna change it to?
So right here, we're at the bottom page 36 and.
Yeah, no, I see you want to make it shall, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but-
And shall be required.
If you're in a residential neighborhood, you don't need a 10-foot sidewalk.
I kind of agree with that.
I think the may should stay in there.
I do too. I think we want flexibility. I think that's what we're running into. You know. That's my,
No, I agree.
Where do we have a 10-foot wide sidewalk in the village, other than the boardwalk?
Main Street.
Is Crestline, is Church Street, I mean? I
What's
think,
that?
I think Church Street might be, isn't it?
Those aren't 10-foot wide.
No, that's not 10.
Oh, no.
They might be
So,
5.
so we have, so like in the New Scenic Valley, we require a 10-foot path there. Not the sidewalk, but the pedestrian path.
Oh,
Park Street had that.
Okay, if the pedestrian walking across the street, that's 10-foot wide. For the crosswalk.
No,
The path.
The path, you know, the line that on Park Street, there's a white line,
Yeah.
and that's the pathway, that's 10 feet.
It doesn't look like 10 feet when I walk it, but okay. I
Well,
mean, it could be, I don't say, I just,
that's what this is saying.
So we can just leave it as may, so that it can be determined by the plan commission and the village board for what is required for adequate pedestrian circulation.
you have to go to almost a 77-foot right away on all our streets now.
Well, we can just leave it like that.
right.
I'd rather not make a big issue out of something that isn't used that much. All right, page 37, you're adding cable and broadband.
Yes, so this is making all of the utilities go in one trench instead of having them be all over. This is something I've done in previous community. If you don't necessarily direct them, they could potentially come in at different times. And it's a quality of life thing for residents more than anything. Thoughts, comments, questions?
I think it should stay. Internet's almost a requirement, you know. It's hard to function without it.
Well, this is requiring for cable and broadband to be in the same ditch as dairy power and telephone.
Oh. Okay. I have no expertise here then.
No questions?
No, no.
It's good.
So 83 here talks about the minimal lot sizes and minimal distance frontage for each lot. Our current subdivision code requires a minimum of 9,600 square feet and then 80 feet at the building line, a width of 80 feet at the building line. And so these are not the minimal requirements per our zoning code. Our zoning code is, I think, much less. Residential 5, which is the most dense of our single family, allows down to a 7,200 square feet lot with, I believe, 50 feet width. So this is a consistency issue, and again, this was a waiver that we provided for a recent development.
Again, I would go with the zoning code.
Right, it's gotta match the zoning code.
We have a comment over here. So-
Oh, go ahead, Seth.
The one above B. Can we just approve a subdivision with double frontage? Although the double frontage is a town road, but it's still double frontage. Creek Crossing, the lots along the north line of the road directly behind them, don't they? Isn't that what that means? You have the street and then you have the house and then you have another street right behind it. Is that what double frontage is?
I think I'm gonna have to defer to the planner on this one.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's typically called a through lot, and that's exactly what you're talking about, because both sides have the right of way along it. And so that's, I think, what the double frontage is referring to.
Yeah, so Creek Crossing, Meyer Road, right? That's a town road, is that?
But I don't think any of the right of way goes into our lots.
No, there's actually, I brought that up, that someone could not put a driveway in off of
Yeah.
that frontage road.
Yeah.
And that was put in that they had to use the village road and not the town road to get onto their lots.
That's fine, I'm just,
Yeah,
the way this
so-
is written, it's saying we're prohibiting double frontage lots, and that's the kind of lot that's a double frontage lot.
Yeah, but isn't it,
Unless it changes
Yeah, so
because it's
it's
not a village road.
It does define a double lot, double frontage as a lot with, that is not two corners, it's not a corner lot and abuts 2 or more streets with possible vehicular access to both streets.
right, and we aren't doing that. I don't think it count, those count. I think if we had where
Yeah.
people could come in on both sides, then that would consider. I don't think because there's a road behind you, because I'm thinking there's probably other spots in town that have the same thing.
Well,
Yeah,
we
this is for
have,
new development, I'm just.
yeah, we
It's something to
have,
consider to move forward.
Yeah.
Adjust that.
well, we can further define it, I think, as allowable access, because I'm thinking about the first couple of lots on Scenic Valley.
Yeah,
They're all double frontage by definition, but they don't have access off of KP. but
right.
they're- And then all along,
Well,
Hillside Trail and Brewery Road, all of those are the same.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's the second half of that definition that makes vehicle access to both sides. And what you guys just described as not allowing vehicle access on both sides would eliminate it from being the double frontage defined lot per the subdivision code.
right, and I think we want to keep that in there as B. We want that to be, right? Or are you suggesting we take it
I'm
out?
not suggesting anything, I'm raising the issue is that just make sure it's something we consider.
we're not catching
It's not
ourselves.
something we need to further define. I'm not saying we want
Okay,
to, but I'm just thinking we just approved one that had double frontage. This is for new developments. Do we need to?
but, okay, but I just want to clarify. I don't think we did approve one.
Where's
Not
the
by that
definition for this double
definition.
frontage?
Yeah, it's in the subdivision code, just a minute here. It is on,
Oh, I just didn't see, I looked under D, that's right.
yeah, so,
It's, yeah.
so we-
It's possible to have vehicular access to those streets. You may ban it as part of an approval.
Yeah, well, it says we have to ban it. This says they're not They're prohibited.
They're prohibited.
So we cannot approve it,
I know.
right? That's how, unless, am I reading this wrong?
I don't know if we want that in there. I don't know. I don't know if we want it prohibited because we may run into it where we might need to do it.
No, we don't want garages on both sides of a house.
Well, I don't want
We have-
garages on
we
both
have that
sides.
On Main Street already, except for the entrance through the park, behind the old fire station. And what about on Valley and whatever the street is?
Valley Woodside.
Woodside, there's one there.
Circle. They have certain driveways on the.
Some have their garages and driveways at Valley, but their
Oh,
addresses on the other side. So we have a lot of them. And again, this is for new development.
Right.
That's sort of-
But do we want something like that?
Well,
I mean, if you park your car in the back and you have parking out front and in front of the house, just like the gentleman that lives at the Ice Age Trail. I mean, he parks his cars in the back and he can access the front. He has both.
he does.
But he doesn't own the parking in the back, does he?
He has
Yeah.
his garage back there. He drives right
It's
in.
his lot. And his
Oh,
lot is
Well,
narrow.
But I think the definition was.
I don't know if we
is
want it or don't
vehicular
want it, but I don't know
access.
if we don't want, I don't know if we want to say prohibit and like get handcuffed. I mean, I think we need to think
Well,
about
Well, it's
it.
something they'd have to ask for a variance.
Yeah, they just have to
Okay.
come in for a
Okay.
waiver. That's, I mean,
Okay.
it's not like, every one of these we can waive.
Okay.
But
Then I'm.
you don't want to actively promote people doing.
Right,
that
Right.
lot,
Right,
Because that
right.
causes situations down the road. that-
So in that case, it'd be appropriate to leave it as is.
Yeah.
If there's a good reason.
Yeah, if there's a
come in and
unique
ask for-
situation,
Like
yeah,
a topography challenge, that makes it, yes.
Okay.
all right. So then on C, we're looking to make that consistent with the zoning code.
Right.
Everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
All right, then we're on D now.
Yeah, so D, states that residential lots, to be served by private sewage disposal facilities shall comply with the rules of the Wisconsin Department of Commerce. The question that I had here was, do we want to remove this, to promote, sewer being public? And the comment was that, it would, that the planners would recommend leaving that in there in case there's a situation where it needed to be private sewer.
Well, I'm gonna totally disagree with the planner. I don't think we should have residential lots that are not hooked up to sewer, public sewer. That goes against everything I believe in on what a village should supply and for the environment and everything else, you know. I don't get it. I don't get why we would approve a development that had septics. They're not paying into the system. It just makes no sense to me. This is just gonna get, developers are gonna do that because it's gonna be cheaper. And I don't think we should.
So I think by default, residential, private sewage disposal facilities need to comply with the Department of Commerce, right?
Yeah,
So,
you have to get a state permits. to do that.
correct. And so we do.
But this takes it out of our hands, I think.
Correct.
Right. They have to at least come to us and now ask if they want to. If
Not
we
with
take
this
it-
in here.
No. I thought if we take it out, then they
Right.
don't have to. Right. With it in, they have to come and ask us. if we
No,
take it.
no,
No.
no, it's the opposite of what
Oh,
you're
it's the
saying.
okay. Oh.
Residential lots should be served by public.
Oh, right.
It should-
Sewage
shall.
control, or shall
Shall.
be served by public.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disposal, sewage disposal.
Right,
Right
Right.
now,
I
they're
want them to
giving
have
them
to
the
come
option of
ask.
not being, and that's what we
Right.
don't want.
Right.
right. So is that good for you, Bill?
Yeah. We're just gonna change that and require them to be hooked up to public.
Right, and they can come in, ask for a waiver on that. Go ahead, Seth.
For E, because that's something that needs to be potential change for zoning to, doesn't Creek Crossing have some of those lots that are narrower than 50 feet, because they're the ones that
They're
decline for duplexes, et cetera, those 8.
Yeah, this is a consistency issue, so I think this has to do with state statute. There is a state statute that requires a county with a certain population over to have a minimum of 50 feet. Unless the plan commission and the village board specifically approve an agreement or plan to allow for them to have essentially the zero lot line duplex.
Yeah,
And so,
and I thought Creek Crossing knew this, that they would have to come and get a waiver for
Yep.
that.
that's correct.
I thought they did. We didn't
No,
get
no.
it.
Well, they didn't get so it's not technically a waiver, it's what we zoned it as is a DR6. Specifying that in the agreement that in order to develop it, it would have to meet the standard DR6 zones, or they would have to get a plan development
Right.
for that.
They did a pod.
No, not yet.
did they?
No, because they haven't sold them yet. I think they're
Oh.
gonna wait for the person who buys them. They were just asking. Bill, did you have a question?
Different subject.
Yeah.
What's the difference between F and H in this section? They look identical, but there's differences and the same, so F says shall not be substantially at right angles to or radical to street lines. H says side lots shall be nearly as possible right angles to straight lines or radical to curved streets. So, I mean, are we being redundant?
Well, one, I think F talks about your square block.
Yeah.
And I think H is talking about the ones where they're curved. You're on a curve or on like if you look at Creekside Way,
Yeah.
it's not cornered out, it's a curve,
Sure, yeah.
so you can't, the Micklicks can't get perpendicular to that side of Creekside Way, right? Because they're on a circle.
H seems like it covers F.
It does.
Like,
Exactly.
If you
that's
get
what I was
rid of
thinking.
F and it's covered in H.
Oh, I see, because it has straight street lines.
Basically, like,
And it also
F
says
is like
like
more
this.
generic, and H is a little more descriptive. It seems like H covers. let's say, F.
Yeah, you're right. H covers both straight streets and curve.
Actually, yep. Or curved.
Yeah. So I guess we could get rid of F. Unless.
Or this, or
radical.
No, I would agree with you. I think H covers both the right angle situation and the curvilinear
Okay.
situation here.
And then getting back to Seth's question about the 50 feet, we'll take a look at making that consistent with the zoning code. Any others? Before we move on here. All right. So the next one, just talking again about easements and utilities and ensuring that internet and broadband are included in the same easement areas.
is this gonna cause a problem with not with fiber, but with telco and electric lines? I mean, I'm sure they isolate their lines, but, electric is noisy. It's just, there's just noisy lines, and I'm wondering if is that going to cause a problem for the internet companies that don't use fiber and use copper pair? I don't know. I'm just asking the question if anyone.
Yeah.
Just-
So I can tell you that I don't believe that argument has ever come up.
Okay,
They usually don't want to go in because they lose the they don't want to go in because they want to come in at their own time.
okay.
And generally, that means that, it's a lot later than after electric lines and utilities have been buried again. So generally what happens is when you build a home, you got all the utility that goes in, all the landscaping gets done, the grass is growing, and then the cable company comes in. and
Sure,
tears it
yeah.
up. You know, and we do have a general, catch-all, as I believe at the end of the ordinance that says that if any part of this ordinance is illegal, that it doesn't appeal, it doesn't apply.
I mean, I'm fine with it, I just didn't know if that was.
Good question.
It's not our issue. If it is an issue.
And I'm sure they'll let us know.
Right.
Any other questions? Might as well moving on. So again, on page 41, it talks about the extension of sewer and water to areas which require construction of special facilities such as a lift station, pump station. And again, understanding that the type of topography that we live in, there are challenges to get water and sewer to specific areas of development. But again, sticking with the philosophy of requiring that they be a part of our system, questions whether or not we should have this language there.
I guess I'm okay leaving it as is. I mean, I don't, you know, to me, this means I'd rather have them, if they have to spend a little bit more, not to have a pump station and stuff, but I agree with you. A lot of it happens, but this is not saying that we're not gonna do it. So I think it just is a good thing to make people think and look at options instead of taking the easy way. That's my feeling.
Anyone else?
No, I agree.
Okay, I'll make that note. Some changes in wording. Adding some reference to the streetlight policy that was recently.
What page are you on now?
I'm on page 44,
All right.
at the very top there.
I think that's a good idea. I think we should. We have a policy that they can go to clear up a lot of things and give them guidance. I think it's great.
Well, is that policy what's written there, or do we actually have a separate policy? Because I know you like the lamps to be recessed so you don't get the glare.
We have
Is that all in
we
there?
passed a regular policy.
Okay.
And it's pretty detailed.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, no, we have a separate policy that just got passed.
Okay, at the bottom of page 44, this is the section about scheduling for earth disturbing activities. Currently, we require that any disturbance more than 1 acre shall only occur between May 1st and September 15th of each year. And that the restoration of all earth disturbances shall be completed by September 15th. Past the most recent 2 developments, we've given waivers, I believe to the end of October.
Well, we got to clarify, it's end of September for
September
main
for-
ground
correct,
and within the right of way to
to
October 30th.
correct.
So we'd have to spell that out. I think we're comfortable with going to October with the right of way because that's gravel and tar or blacktop and stuff like that, putting lights in, but not moving earth. And however we word it, the waivers, I guess it should be put in there. That's what I would think.
Right, yeah.
Because we did Creekside and whatever,
Scenic
the
Valley.
scenic, the same,
Yep,
right?
yep. And I think that's a good way of doing it, and people know.
Any other comments or objections?
Yeah, we spent a long time on that.
Yes, we did.
Do you think, Bill, I got a question. Do you think that's pretty normal for like Madison or Dane County? Is that what they usually do?
I
What do you
don't
think?
believe.
I'm just
so.
questioning. I'm just curious.
You probably have, Ben, you probably have more experience in other communities than I do, but
I have
We didn't
not
have
run
this
into
in
this, so
Arcadia.
I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious.
I'm not sure Madison has dates because they were doing stuff all year round when they built Midtown. I think they have requirements on making sure things
Heavy
don't.
equipment and stuff.
Well, the equipment and you don't have runoff, you have it all protected, fenced in and that, but I don't remember them saying we can't, we got to get this done by this date.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's something we could look
I want
at.
to say this is pretty specific to us.
Okay, thank you.
I can do the research. on it.
But
Well, I was just
Madison
curious.
does require you to, every time it rains or something happens, you have to do a report
Oh,
on how much erosion and,
wow.
yeah, it's,
That'd be
yeah,
neat.
But that's part of the new, I mean, because the waiver that we've granted, no, every time there's a melting event, we require an inspection. So we stepped it up as far as
Yeah.
inspection and enforcement, and then reduced added more leniency in the code.
and what I'm saying is I think Madison has the requirement of the reporting and inspection, not the time. That's how I would guess, but I'm,
Okay. Changes from clerk to administrator on page 47.
I think we're pretty much,
What's this? 50 is the clerk to administrator. Some reference and some ordinance sections on page 51. Clerk to administrator. Okay, so this section here is in regards to waivers, variance and waivers. What we did was we struck variance in favor for waivers. Variance generally have a connotation to it, meaning that you have to meet certain criteria based, usually having to deal with hardship, and that comes from zoning law and case
State
law
statutes.
and state statutes on the zoning side, not specifically subdivision. So I know we've run into issues with that, with attorneys and language previously, and so, which in this case, the waiver language makes sense. It's something that our attorney has recommended that we do, and so that's represented here.
any questions, comment?
I believe that's it.
Well, can I have a motion then?
I will make a motion that we approve, sorry, I'll make the motion, we approve the changes to the land division and subdivision, chapter 83 of our ordinances with the changes that we talked about tonight.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call vote.
All right, Commissioner Birkeland,
Yes.
trustee Calbeater,
Yes.
Commissioner Duquette,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
trustee Brochus,
Yes.
President Langfeld.
Yes, all right. Number 5, rescheduling the September 6th Plan Commission meeting. Unless we want to meet on Labor Day, get that extra pay.
Or have no one show up.
Yeah.
So we've historically, or in the past events where holiday has fallen on a Monday, we've done it the following day on that Tuesday.
So it would be September 7th. How does that sound to people?
That's good with me.
That good, Brittany?
Yep.
Seth?
Yeah, should be fine.
Okay, so we will move our next meeting to September 7th, 6 PM here.
And does that work for you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, sure. Well, before we adjourn, let's just go around and introduce people, since we have some new people. Start with you, Bill.
I'm Bill Brochus, I'm Bill's trustee. Been a trustee for 7 years. This is my first year on plan. So, but I've been around in park and library and a bunch of fun stuff.
Seth Johnson, I've been a village resident for 18 years. Was on Economic Development Committee a long time ago, but this is my fourth month on Plan Commission.
I think all of you know me, Bill Chang, the village administrator, and economic and tourism director. Long title, but been with the village here for about a little bit over 2 years.
Cameron, why don't you go next?
Sure, I'm Cameron Bjorklund. I have not done any of this official committee or anything stuff, so this is my first go at it. So, you know, any feedback is appreciated. I've been living in Cross Plains. I'm a little bit newer. We've only been here for almost 3 years.
Brittany?
I'm Brittany Garcia. I grew up in Cross Plains and I was recruited by Jay. I am brand new to all of this. So I do work in government, so I know a little bit of the process, how the process goes, but yeah, new experience.
Todd Duquette, resident, lived here since '96, and I've served on committees, and I've been on the Plan Commission for more years than I can count.
Judy Kelter Kettle Beater. I was born and raised in Cross Plains, been on village board 12 years, I believe it is, and I've been on all the committees that go with it. That's it. And who's our planning?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
What is your
Ben-
name tag?
Yeah, sorry. My name is Ben Rohr with Vandewall and Associates. For those of you who are more longstanding members of the Plan Commission, Mike Slavny played this role for a very long time. He is officially retiring at the end of this week. So I am the replacement in terms of taking over some of his client communities in the Dane County area. And so that's where my focus will be. I do all sorts of different planning, from long range comprehensive and park planning to the short range site plan review, plan commission, meeting packets, things like that. So I will be your resource for planning related questions, in particular the zoning code and things like that. And then I will, help Bill and other village staff where needed.
All right.
So can we call you New Mike or do we gotta call you Ben?
You can, yes, I suppose. I've
Since we
been
got-
to several plan commission meetings over the past couple of months where Mike has said he's stepping away and has received a standing ovation. And he's like, they always clap when I say I'm leaving, not when I'm staying.
Well, I want to welcome everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Jay Langfeld, village president. Welcome all the new members and Ben, and I think in staff meetings, we call you Ben too, right?
Yeah,
Since we got a couple other Bens
yeah,
there.
there's another.
But no, we got a good group and I look forward to working with you guys this year. We got a lot of good things happening in the planning area, so should be good. All right, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed, same. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.